professionalism, both as we move forward in this debate and should repeal occur. We treat people with dignity and respect in the armed forces, or we don't last long. No special cases, no special treatment. We're going to continue to comport ourselves with honor and hold ourselves accountable across the board to impeccably high standards. Repeal or no repeal. Finally, the report shows that however low the overall risk of repeal may be with respect to readiness, cohesion, and retention, it is not without its challenges. We can best address those challenges by having it within our power and our prerogative to manage the implementation process ourselves. Should repeal occur, I share the Secretary's desire that it come about through legislation, through the same process with which the law was enacted, rather than precipitously through the courts. I further hope that such debate in the Congress will be as fully informed by the good work done in this report as my advice to the Secretary and to the President is. Thank you.
Secretary Gates, you said it would be unwise to proceed with repeal until there's more groundwork. How long do you envision that process lasting? And is this a concern and a recommendation that is shared by the White House as far as once Congress acts, there still being a period in which the policy is in place? Admiral Mullen, do you also share that recommendation?
Well, first of all, just to be clear, what we're talking about is that should the Congress vote to repeal the law, what we are asking for is the time subsequent to that to prepare adequately before the change is implemented in the force. How long that would take, frankly, I don't know. There is the report, as you will see in the implementation plan, lays out an ambitious agenda of things that need to be done, including not only leadership training, but training of a military force of over 2 million people. I would say this. I think we all would expect that if this law is implemented, the President would be watching. If repeal is passed, the President would be watching very closely to ensure that we don't dawdle or try to slow roll this. So I think his expectation would be that we would prepare as quickly as we properly and comprehensively could. And then we would be in a position to move toward the certification. But how long that would take, I think, I don't know. There is a level of risk here as is laid out in the report, and I would hope you spend as much time on the implementation plan as the report, because the implementation plan, certainly from all the military leadership, is strongly endorsed should this law change. And it is in that implementation plan that the risk levels are mitigated, and principally mitigated through leadership. Certainly the training, the guidance, but the engagement of the leadership, and having enough time to do that is critically important as we would look at implementation. That's what really mitigates any risk that's out there.
Okay, you're listening to Admiral Mike Mullen. He's the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and Defense Secretary Robert Gates. Interesting. Both of them saying that they are endorsing this report that says that for most of the military, this long study of the military, most people in the military do not think that repealing don't ask, don't tell, allowing openly gay
will negatively affect the military readiness, cohesion, and all of the things that they were looking for. Over 2/3, which is
it's a big number, but we should just be clear. This isn't a poll about whether people in the military like the idea of repealing it or think it should be repealed. Gates was very specific about this was a study and a poll of whether or not it would negatively affect the way the military operates.
If we were told we needed to implement this, how would it affect all of these things?
And
how would it affect
more than two-thirds says not much.
So what you're hearing, the two big points are, over 2/3 said that it would not affect negatively, really wouldn't have any impact, but also that you hear from Defense Secretary Robert Gates that he's urging the Senate to pass this repeal and having it go through Congress rather than go through the court system.
Both of them were saying that, and it may be confusing to people. Why does it matter that it is repealed through Congress as opposed to the court striking it down as unconstitutional?
And Admiral Mike Mullen, he kind of got to that. They want to make sure that it is implemented in the right way, that the systems are in place and they've thought about how to do this so it would not cause any damage. One key part of that, he said, is going to be leadership. But I think that's why they're emphasizing that it's best if it goes through Congress, not through the courts.
All right, and then the next thing that happens if this goes forward is how you actually implement this, because there are, while 2/3 say it's not a problem, there are some who they say this isn't going to work out all that well.
And now all eyes are going to be turning to Capitol Hill, because we're going to be hearing from Gates, Mullen, as well as the top brass of all of the extensions of the military on Capitol Hill testifying at the end of this week. So it's now eyes turn there. We'll be hearing more from
Very
them.
measured. It seemed that Gates was endorsing a little more than
These two men are measured. This is how they work. They wanted an objective analysis, as they emphasize. This is how they operate.
Right.
They wanted to have the facts before they make any statements, because when they say what they say, it comes down to, it doesn't matter what your personal opinion is. If Congress changes the law, it is our job to implement.
But in summary, a strong majority of those who answered the survey, more than 2/3, do not object to gays and lesbians serving openly in uniform. But in summary, a strong majority of those who answered the survey, more than 2/3, do not object to gays and lesbians serving openly in uniform. Applied equally to homosexuals as well as heterosexuals. Applied equally to homosexuals as well as heterosexuals. I strongly urge the Senate to pass this legislation and send it to the President for signature before the end of this year. I strongly urge the Senate to pass this legislation and send it to the President for signature before the end of this year. Given the present circumstances, those that choose not to act legislatively are rolling the dice that this policy will not be abruptly overturned by the courts. Given the present circumstances, those that choose not to act legislatively are rolling the dice that this policy will not be abruptly overturned by the courts. To resist the urge to lure our troops and their families into the politics of this issue. To resist the urge to lure our troops and their families into the politics of this issue.
Occur. We treat people with dignity and respect in the armed forces, or we don't last long. No special cases, no special treatment. Occur. We treat people with dignity and respect in the armed forces, or we don't last long. No special cases, no special treatment.